like to call to order the meeting of Joliet Junior College, monthly meeting of October 2020. Joan, call the roll, please.
Broderick,
Present.
Garcia Guillen, Mahalik. Mahalik,
He's on mute. Right?
Yeah, he's on.
Mahalik. Okay, well, we know he's present. Morales.
Present, sorry.
Okay.
Here.
Morales.
Here.
O'Connell.
Here.
Washington.
Here.
Wunderlich.
Here. Okay, so we don't need a secretary because we've got one. I'd like to welcome everybody who came out this evening. It's a nice day for until tomorrow. And then we start going into it. At this time, Pledge of Allegiance. Joan Tierney, would you do us an honor, please?
Yes, of course. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Joan. Item 1.0.5, public comments. Do we have any public comments from anybody?
No public comments
No
requested.
public
Mr. Chairman.
comments. All righty. So moving on, 1.1, financial audit, business reports.
I would like to introduce Jason Coyle, partner CPA from Baker Tilly this evening. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. All right, I'm just going to quickly go over with you the results of your financial statement audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. You continue to issue what's known as a CAFR, a Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, so congratulations on continuing to do that. It's a higher level of reporting, if you will, than you're actually required to do, and gives readers, whoever that might be, more transparency into your operation. So there's a section in your CAFR called MD&A, or Management's Discussion Analysis, and I always recommend to governing bodies that you at least read that section of the document when you get a chance. Your CAFR is quite lengthy, but the Management's Discussion Analysis is a good summarized place to look at what happened during the year. So anyway, I encourage you to do that. The biggest thing I want to point out in your CAFR is our opinion. The opinion on your financial statements continues to be what we call an unmodified opinion, or a clean opinion. That's the only thing that's coming from our firm. The rest of the information in your financial statements is your information. So that's the highest level of assurance we can give over the financial information. And in layman's terms, what that means is somebody can pick up your financial statements and rely on the information in there in all material respects as they evaluate the financial health of the college. So congratulations on continuing to receive an unmodified or clean opinion. There's some other opinions within there as well. For example, on your enrollment data and on the ICCB, or Illinois Community College Board grants, and all those are also unmodified or clean. We also issue a report related to government auditing standards, which you are audited under, and I'm happy to say we had nothing in there, so that is also a clean opinion under government auditing standards. The one opinion that we haven't yet issued, which is a little unusual for us, is related to your federal funding, which for you obviously is primarily your financial aid programs. Because of the fact you received some funding under the CARES Act, and the government's still kind of catching up with some of the rules related to that. In an abundance of caution, we've held off finalizing our audit over your federal funding, and just until we get the final rules on that. We don't anticipate having to test the expenditures you made under that program, but just since it is so new and we don't know exactly what the federal government's going to do, we prefer just to wait till that final guidance comes out from them. But nonetheless, that'll be issued forthcoming, and we'll communicate that to you once it's done. Just getting into some required communications with you is kind of not a lot happened, which is great under the required communications. You didn't implement any new accounting policies during the year. We didn't identify any journal entries when we came in to prepare the audit, which means the financial information we are given was accurate. We didn't have any disagreements with management. In fact, just the opposite. had a great working relationship with management as we concluded and completed the audit. And obviously the audit was done virtually this year as we're continuing to work virtually, which proves a little bit more challenging, but we were able to get it done and appreciated everyone's help at the college. I think the only thing to note is we continue to have what we call a past adjustment related to your summer tuition and salaries, which is consistent with prior years related to the deferral on that. So, that's just a consistency from previous years. We had no reportable recommendations, so no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. So congratulations on that. Nothing that came to our attention as it relates to your internal controls that we were required to communicate to you. From, just kind of a financial statement summary in the back of our packet of required communications, we put some financial information in there. I'll highlight a couple things to you. Obviously, during the year, you refunded some bonds, and that resulted in an economic savings to you of $8.6 million. So that's always a positive. Overall, revenues were more than expenses by $9.1 million. Net tuition revenue decreased 6.4%, and scholarships and tuition allowances increased by 12.9% related to the pandemic and some of the allowances that were granted there. Overall, though, the district continues to be in good, strong financial health. Also, on that last page in the required communication, we pointed out some differences between last year and this year in the education fund and the operations and maintenance fund. Revenues are up slightly in the education fund, almost 3%. Expenditures up 4.6%. The fund balance continues to be relatively stable. It was up approximately 3%. And as you can see, the fund balance as a percentage of revenues continues to be stable at about 25%. In your operations and maintenance fund, a very similar story. Revenues increased about 3%. Expenditures up slightly 3%. And the fund balance remains relatively stable, increasing 3.5%. And again, the fund balance as a percentage of revenues, again, stable in the operations and maintenance fund at approximately 27%. So I know you had a lot of challenges with the pandemic and everything that's going on related to that, but financially, at least for the fiscal year end of 2020, you remain in good financial health. That's really the end of my prepared remarks, but I'm happy to answer any particular questions you might have over our audit or the financial results.
Anyone? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate being with you.
Okay, next item 1.1.2, the tax levy for 2020. Dr. Mitchell.
Mr. Jeff Heap, our controller, will provide the presentation to you this evening. Jeff?
Sorry about that.
Good evening. Basically, under the tax cap law, this is the formula the college has to follow. And it basically determines what our tax rate will be along with what our levy would be, our total levy would be if there was no new construction within the district during the year. Basically, it would go up by the consumer price index. When the FY21 budget was adopted, the parameters used in that for the levy was an overall 3.5% increase to the operating funds. And that's comprised of the consumer price index at 2.3%, and then an estimate of 1.2%, or approximately $250 million for new construction. And then the debt service levy is just a small increase this year, and that's related to goes back to the referendum bond and then the 2019 refunding bond we did. So as we get further through the year and we start to get preliminary numbers from some of the county assessors, the assumptions putting into the formula is overall expect around a 3% increase in existing assessed value in our district. New construction looks like it's going to be in that $225 to $250 million range. And then the consumer price index is already known at 2.3% because that was the calendar year 19.
Question I have, as you're going through this, when you say 3% net increase to the EAV, that's on residential?
Overall,
Overall, does that,
I don't necessarily have a breakdown between, I just know an overall for kind of Will County that I saw was right around 3% was an estimate.
okay, because of the quadrennial, is this considered in the quadrennial that they did as far as on some of us in areas that they did the quadrennial?
My understanding, yes.
So it includes that, because this year I noted that we and I'm saying in our area in New Lenox we didn't see that we got to protest because ours didn't have an increase because of the quadrennial. So I hope we're taking that into consideration when we're looking at.
When I'm looking at it, when I get stuff from Will County, I pretty much just look at it in total. I don't break it down by townships because there's only a couple townships in Will County that we don't have, our levy doesn't extend into.
Okay,
So I just look at it in total.
I'm just concerned about the effect of the quadrennial on it because when you say increase, I'm looking at, I know mine didn't go up for
Okay.
this year. So that's why we're looking with that and what we're going to get for 2021 when we vote on the levy. That's going to be whatever comes from 2020 too, correct? 2020 also?
Say that again to make sure I followed you.
Okay, when you're looking at what we're going to get for the tax money for 2021,
Yes,
that's money from 2020 assessments?
yes.
Okay, so that's why when I'm looking at this and it says 3.0 net increase EAV from 2019, you don't know what the numbers are yet for 2020
Correct,
until February or March, correct?
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Till I see the levy edit reports like in March, April, I don't know the final numbers until then.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all rough estimates at this point.
Okay, that's fine.
If under the tax cap scenario, if we reduce the levy, so we would not capture the consumer price index of 2.3% for this year, even though our budget was based on it, it'd reduce our levy by approximately $1.3 million. Since that's the starting point for next year's levy under the tax cap, you lose that every year plus potential consumer price index adjustments. The cumulative after 20 years be in the neighborhood of $32 million cumulative over that time frame. For debt service, the 2012, 2013 A and B, and the 2018 bonds will be abated in their entirety because the capital assessment fee, basically on the students pay for those bond issues. The only one that is left extended is the referendum bond from 09 that we refunded for savings last year. And that's sitting right around the $7.5 million.
Well, yeah, our student fees go up every year.
Projections. This kind of shows scenarios of how much our levy would be based on differing levels of new construction. So that's the only variable in here, kind of in the formula. You know, starts at 225 million and ranges all the way up to 400 million. And it kind of shows what the net effect or the total effect it would have on our levy. Kind of slightly gray highlight is just what our budget was kind of based on and where we expect the levy to come out to be. You know, just right around 57.9 million, which is basically what our budget was based on. And that's what it looks like it's expected to be. And overall, if assessed value of existing property does go up approximately that 3%, the consumer price index is 2.3, it should actually reduce our rate slightly. It's not a big effect, but it should decrease just a slight amount. From an individual taxpayer perspective, and I had dropped the first couple of years off, it was getting to be way too many numbers, couldn't read it. In 2010, started with a $200,000 house valued at $200,000, or in 2010 started with a house valued at $200,000. what that property would have paid the college, and then brought it forward over the years if their assessed value adjusted by what the overall district's assessed value changed. So after the recession, it went down there for a number of years. And now for about the last 5 years, assessed value on existing property has increased around that 3% range. It's been pretty consistent now at that. You can see what that individual home would have paid the college there, kind of that third line from the bottom, to the college in taxes. And basically what that changed every year was the consumer price index. There's a little bit of a blip in 2016 when we didn't do the abatement, when the state didn't pass a budget for a few years, but then it came back down in 17. So the proposed levy, and is based on our budget, plus 1%. To reach this levy, new construction would have to be in the $400 million range, which I do not see that from preliminary numbers I have. That overall, right here, it shows from last year's extended levy, right under 3%. Will County has some adjustments because they do estimation in the beginning. The starting point under tax caps for this year, it was not the 56.35 million. It was about $300,000 less than that. So it deflates this percentage when you compare it to the last year's final extended levy. And that plays with it every year, depending on how much what Will County estimate is versus actual when the other counties get factored in. So next steps was basically on the agenda tonight to adopt the estimated levy. Then we will publish the notice on it, even though we're below the 5%. We've always continued to publish notice on our tax levy ask for final approval at the November board meeting so we could file before the final Tuesday in December with the county clerks. Yes.
You done?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to bring this up because whenever we have a upcoming election of us on the board, the first thing they always say is, oh my God, the taxes are going up. I'm going to go back. Can you go back to the individual taxpayer? Because I think this needs to be noted by this board. We have all looked at the budget. All of us in this room that were on the board when the budget was passed approved it, correct? Dr. Mitchell? We all approved it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So being that was the critical juncture in assessing this tax, we did our homework and watched what we've asked for cuts for in the budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so this board has done that. So now if we look at the individual taxpayer, and I'm looking at 2018, 2019, 2020, and I'm looking at what the cost per thousand is, we are stable. We are not increasing. We went down a penny in 2019, and in 2020, we're stabling at the same one, correct?
When you cost per thousand, yes.
Yes, I'm doing cost per thousand because people do not understand tax levies. And every time they look at something, the first thing that's out of anybody's mouth when they're running for an election says, I'm going to do the tax, we're going to keep the taxes down. If we all look at our tax bill and see what our tax bills to JJC are, they're minimal. They're not where the high schools are. They're not where the grade schools are. That's the biggest chunk of our tax bill. Those are the areas that taxpayers should be concerned about. Yes, I'm watching. I think we all are watching what our taxes are here at JJC. But I think when we look at what you're providing to us and we've all approved the budget and made sure that cuts are in place, I think no one should take any negative position on JJC saying we're increasing taxes because we're not. And I'm just making that as a statement because I get so tired of hearing that being brought up during election time. And I'm making this so that this is of public record, that we as the board here sitting, all of us are watching what the college is spending and watching what the taxpayers, we're very conservative and watchful of what we are doing with our tax dollars.
Absolutely, good point.
And that's my comment for the day. And thank you for your presentation.
That's your only comment for the day?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, are we there where we can ask questions?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So the overall effect, kind of piggybacking off of what Trustee Broderick mentioned, for the taxpayers, what is the full effect for a homeowner? Is there going to be an increase for them? No? Little bit?
It's all a play on what their assessed value on their house does compared to last year. It's a combination of factors.
Right, but it looks like assessed values are gonna be going up.
Overall, yes, and that's what is built in on here is assume the assessed value goes up 3% on that property. You know, the average homeowner, you know, if you say market value 193,000, basically that homeowner just under $187, which would be a slight increase from the previous year of 183, correct?
So it would be a little bit. Now, I get it that,
It's
A
basically
little
the
bit.
consumer price index.
right, so even though we can say we're not raising taxes, some homeowners might see a slight increase.
Bottom line, yes.
Okay,
You look at it and go, is our rate holding steady? Yes. Assessed value goes up. In essence, you get the final extension is a little higher.
But the homeowner, based on that, if the home goes up in appreciated value, that's a benefit to the homeowner that we have no control over. The control that we have is in what we're putting forth on the tax levy, which then, if the home stayed at the same value instead of going up, would stay the same. We have no control over assessed value. And
Correct.
that's based on, and if we look, and I'm going to throw this in, Alicia, too. Based on this year, the homes have been selling rapidly. COVID has taken over this market. Being that I'm in lending, homes don't even last on the market for one day. They have multiple bids and they're going over the asking price. So we are going to probably see appreciation following, because that's just what happens. But they do take a 3-year average.
Yeah, it's a 3-year
So
look
there's a
back.
3-year average that's in there, but that's still going to elevate the value a little bit. So that needs to be taken into consideration when we're looking at this situation.
The only thing we actually have control over is a tax rate.
Really, the only thing we have control over is the request here,
Correct, yeah,
which is used to determine the rate
the rate.
after assessed value is brought into it, yes.
so, well, I wasn't finished, so anyhow, although homes are going faster, they're selling quickly, I see that they're just flying off like hotcakes, but they're overpriced. A lot of these houses are extremely overpriced, and they need, especially houses that were built in the early 1900s, they need so many repairs, but that's besides the point. And we do cover a 7-county-wide territory. So, you know, with the tax levy, even though they might see a little bit, yes, taxpayers, this is confusing. And if we're not an accountant, if we're not a tax person, even for the board members here, we're not 100% on this. So that's why we have these meetings, to have these discussions and ask questions, you know, not just sit here and rubber stamp everything, because that wouldn't be appropriate either. So, okay, I just wanted to know that some homeowners might see a slight increase, some may not. It all goes back to their assessed value. So we'll just, you know, I know that as a board, me particularly, we try to really make sure that we are, you know, looking at the budget and making sure that the money whatever we're approving is really necessary and an expense. Because if we can, our job is to protect, hold the line down on the taxes, keep it affordable. At the end of the day, we are an institution of education, and our main focus here is to provide affordable, attainable education for the students, and also keep the taxes down in our 7-county-wide base. So, you know, whatever people decide to say during election time, we can't control that, but it's good to be informed. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jeff? You done?
I'm done.
Thank you very much. This time, we'd like to take a moment of silence for the individuals. First one is a hard one for me because he was a very personal friend, James V. Smith. He did a lot of work for the JJC community, the city, the county. He was just an overall wonderful person. As well as Susan Tierney Bates, sister-in-law of Joan and Ann of Nick Shane in Facility Services, and Sharon Gigoletti, sister-in-law of Linda Goody in Financial Services. And again, they were all wonderful people, and our prayers go out to them and their families.
I do have one to add.
Yes.
Guy Sell. Guy Sell was
Sell.
a graduate from here, and he also was a adjunct teacher from here too. And I think he was on the foundation, if I remember correctly, but it was mentioned in his obituary, and I know the guy was very active at JJC.
Was he a former Will County board member?
Yes, I thought
Yes.
so too.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Moving on, recognition of special guests. Do we have any special guests that are with us virtually? Okay, maybe they're just watching. Okay. Next item, appointment of the new student trustee. So that means
Yeah, no.
that Ian will have to stand up here. Raise your hand. And follow the following. I, Ian Wilkinson,
I, Ian Wilkinson,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the member of and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Trustees.
and will faithfully, okay, you lost me.
Discharge the
duties of the
office of the Board of Trustees, Joliet Junior College, Illinois Community College,
Illinois Community College,
District 525,
District 525,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Gotcha.
Welcome, Ian.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome. All righty. Moving on, item 1.4.1, approval of Native American Heritage Month proclamation.
Chairman, I would like to introduce Allie Wittenhall, who's planning to graduate with her associate's degree from JJC in the spring of 2021, and then plans to transfer to a university in the fall of 2021 to major in nursing. She is a member of Student Government, Disability Awareness Club, Secretary of Collegiate Club Council, and the captain of the cheer dance team. Allie?
Hi, everyone. Okay. Native American Heritage Month 2020. Whereas people of Native American ancestry have played a part in the history of the United States, and whereas it is the goal of Joliet Junior College to provide its students with a comprehensive curricular and co-curricular educational experience with consideration given to the contributions of all socially identifiable groups within American history and culture. And whereas people of Native American ancestry have played and continue to play a vital role in the economic, cultural, social, political, and geographic development of the United States. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Illinois Community College, District Number 525, Joliet Junior College, Counties Will, Grundy, Kendall, LaSalle, Kankakee, Livingston, and State of Illinois hereby recognizes and designates the month of November as Native American Heritage Month in Illinois Community College District Number 525. Adopted this 14th day of October 2020.
So move.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Joan, call the roll, please.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Yes.
and Wonderlich.
Yes. Next item on select reports is 1.4.2 Board of Trustees approval of resolution honoring retiree Patrick Murphy. Is Patrick with us tonight?
I do not believe so.
Can we have a motion to approve the resolution for Patrick?
So moved.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Good longtime employee, Patrick Murphy. Joan, call the roll, please.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
O'Connell,
Yes.
and Wonderlich.
Yes. 1.3, approval of resolution honoring retiree Randy Graves. Is Randy with us this evening?
They did not advise me that he was here, so I do not believe so.
Okay. Entertain a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion in a second. Joan, call the roll, please.
O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
and Wonderlich.
Yes, Randy, another longtime employee.
Mhm.
Next item, 1.4.4, faculty union. Is Bob Marsick with us this evening?
You know, Dr. Marsink shared with me yesterday that he was unable to make the meeting, but I wasn't sure if he identified someone else to. Who is? Susan Prokop. Oh, Susan Prokop.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. I wanted to let you all know that we're all working very hard and working with our students to support them, particularly during these challenging times. And we think everyone is pulling together. We're thankful for the community that we have. And that's really it. We'll keep forging forward.
Thank you, Susan.
Sure.
All righty. Next, adjunct faculty union. Is Laurel with us this evening?
I did not
Or
hear
her-
from Laurel. Joan did not either, so I.
Okay. Moving on. 1.5 minutes, approval of minutes for regular meeting of September 9th, 2020. If there are no additions or corrections, entertain a motion to approve the minutes. So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Joan, call the roll, please.
O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
and Wonderlich.
Yes. Next item, 1.5.2, approval of minutes of the special meeting of September 30th, 2020. If there are no additions or corrections, could I entertain a motion in a second to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Joan, call the roll, please.
O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
and Wonderlich.
Yes. Moving on, item 1.7, approval of the agenda. Entertain a, we have a motion
Second.
and we have a second. If no discussion, Joan, call the roll, please.
O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
and Wonderlich.
Yes. Next item, 1.8, approval of the consent agenda. Entertain a motion in a second.
Before we approve it, I'd like to pull an item for discussions. I'd like to make a motion.
Sure. Well, what do you want to pull?
4.7.
4.7. Okay.
I thought we needed a motion and.
Yeah, you know what? We got to back up. We need a motion in a second first.
And then we can pull.
Yep. That's my fault. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We need a second.
Second.
Okay, now discussion. Alicia,
4.7.
Four-
Yeah. Do I need to
4.7, we're
motion
going
it
to pull
again?
that.
Yeah, I'd like to pull it.
Okay,
What number is it?
4.7.
4.7, and I want 2.11 pulled.
2.1
Point
One.
one pulled.
under administration.
It's the one that was just green sheeted to us.
Okay.
Well, in that case, I'd like also 212.
And, yeah, and 2.12, pardon me.
Okay. Anything else?
Remove my 2.11, it's only 2.1.2,
Well, one or two, you know.
sorry.
All righty. So we've got so far items to be pulled 2.1.2 and 4.7. We have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? If not, Joan, call the roll, please.
O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
No.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales,
No.
and Wonderland.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 2.1.2.
I ask that this one be, instead of
Okay.
a motion for it, I ask that this be detained for the next meeting so that we can have more information on this position. So I'm putting a motion out there to refrain and move it to next month's meeting.
You mean a motion to table till next month?
I'm table it till next month's meeting.
We don't need, where's Carl?
Over here.
We don't need a second on a table motion, do we?
Yeah.
We
You
do. Okay. Do we have a second on the motion to table?
I think I'm going to support that. So I think I'm going to second it.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second to table. Joe, call the roll.
There's discussion.
Discussion?
And I'm going to, correct, Carol? Discussion?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is I understand that there's two candidates that were eligible. Being that this was a hot topic last year and that there was concerns around the police department, I want to make sure that we as the board who are approving this person gets to see the videos. Apparently there's videos, the qualifications of both. I think we have entitlement because I don't want to go through 6 years of having to be back and forth with media and news people asking us, why did you vote for this person without knowing the full credentials of both the candidates? And I think this was a very highlighted issue going in the past with our former police chief. I don't want to see us going through that again. So I think as all board members, we should see all of the qualifications of both of those two people that the employees got to see since we're the ones that are voting on it. And I would like to see the videos as well as any biographs or whatever that they have of resumes to see what they both bring to the table.
Can I make a statement, please?
Sure.
I would like the board members to know that I take every appointment with the utmost of seriousness and importance. My recommendation to hire Brandon Campbell tonight was based on the following. We had a very extensive process with GovHR. We had over 90 candidates, and they shortlisted and sent the top quality candidates to the institution. I had a very extensive review committee comprised of 11 members, cross-representation of the institution, of faculty and staff. We did have extensive interviews with open forums that were conducted with the employees as well as the students. Ian was involved as well. In addition to, they were allowed to interview with the campus police department. I took all of the feedback back seriously, read every comment that was provided to me. I had over 40 some responses from the campus community, looking at some of their yeses, nos, and their questions. I took my time over the weekend. I looked through every one of those comments, and I brought both candidates back in this past Monday to interview them with my final questions. I realize this is a very high level position at the campus, and I believe that my recommendation tonight is the best qualified candidate to meet the needs of the institution, of what we're looking at for today and how we grow in the future. I will tell you that both candidates, both finalists, were excellent. If I could have hired both of them, I would have tomorrow. And I shared that with the members of the review committee, of my team. They were excellent. But I too am at this institution each and every day. I listen to our employees. I listen to our students. I have students that send me their feedback directly. And I took every piece of information so seriously, and as I do in every position. And when I look at board policy, the board hires the president. You give me the right to hire and terminate employees, and I exercise that right this evening. Thank you.
May I speak? Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would just like to say that I am confident that President Mitchell and the panel has vetted these candidates. I don't feel that we as a board need to micromanage the hiring or firing of candidates. And I support President Mitchell. When I took on this position on the board, it was not to micromanage the administration, not to undermine the administration, but to show confidence that the person that we have leading this institution has the best interest of everyone at heart. And so I would say that I support Dr. Mitchell. I'm not interested in going back and reviewing the credentials of people that have already been vetted by a panel of professionals. And I think we need to move forward. Thank you.
If I can, please speak. So I too support Ms. Washington's comments in supporting our leadership, but we all make mistakes. Even the president of a college can sometimes have, judgment not be 100%. I think that the best qualified candidate resigned at the last meeting and is no longer a member of Joliet Junior College. I think we had a good candidate. But I think that sometimes when we scrutinize some positions that are high level in comparison to other high level positions, it turns people away and they leave. And we've had a huge turnover recently with all of our high level positions. But as Trustee Broderick mentioned, we did have issues with the previous person in that position. And I don't want to be in meetings where there's tension. I want our students and our staff to feel safe. And I think we have a good candidate here. I really do think this person is probably a good candidate, even though we lost a good candidate because he was already here. So for that reason, and only for the reason of the problems we had in February that stemmed since last year, which were handled, I think could have been handled a little bit better with the person in the first in the position. I also, if I'm asked questions, and I will be asked questions by students and parents about the leadership of our college, I want to make sure that I can say that I also reviewed the videos. If employees and the panelists got a chance to see videos, I would like to see those too. That's all I'm saying. He probably is going to be approved next meeting, but I'd like to have an opportunity to see that as well. But those are my comments. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I support President Mitchell's choice in this matter. We hired her to do this job. I think we should let her do it. If anybody wants to look at any videos, I don't know why they couldn't look at them. However, I don't see a point in hashing it over for another month or two. I say I support the choice that's been made.
Any further comments?
I'm going to make another one. My concern and focus is we have one sheet of paper with one person's credentials. We do not know who the other person is, other than what we've heard what that person brings to the table, if any of us have people that are reporting and saying things to us. While I support Dr. Mitchell, and I always have, I think that this has been a hot button issue. And I don't feel comfortable just saying, yes, without seeing the other person's credentials, without knowing what was presented to the employees, but yet we're the ones that are supposed to vote. And if I, as a trustee, do not have entitlement to see that, my vote will be no. Thank you.
Had this green sheet, we walked in this meeting today at 5:30, and we didn't even get a chance to review these credentials prior to coming into this meeting. So for that reason, I agree with Trustee Broderick that we sometimes need to get a little bit more before we make that final decision. If this would have been provided last week, we could have called the president, we could have scheduled time to come in and view the videos or what have you, and been ready to make a decision today. If we need to call another meeting next Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, then call it and we won't delay it any longer. I mean, there's a solution to things. We don't have to drown in a glass of water here.
If I could interject a comment, we get green sheets all the time. And as Dr. Mitchell said, there was over 90 candidates. Well, you know, we're not going to get 90 pieces of paper on all the candidates that we don't even have to see because it's not our job to micromanage. If we as a board of trustees don't have confidence in the president, in the administration, in the cabinet that we are elected to hire, then that's our fault and we shouldn't be here. But we hired, the constituents hired us. We hired Dr. Mitchell and the administration, and she does her job. And that's all I have to say. And if there's no more discussion, I would call the question do we want to table this or do we not want to table this?
You've got a
And
first
I would
and a
like-
second.
Joan, would you call the roll, please?
So we're calling the question to
To table
Table.
this, table this.
The motion on the table, the motion before the board is to table item 2.1.2.
Yes. Do we want to table it or not?
Until when?
Well, it would be tabled until it's next placed on the agenda by the chairman.
Could we have another meeting before the next agenda to make a decision?
You can schedule a special meeting pursuant to your policies. So it could be scheduled before the next meeting, but that would be subject to the chairman's decision.
Correct. And we're not asking for 99 green sheets. We're only asking for the other one.
But I agree, this goes back that we set policy, we talk about this constantly. And Dr. Mitchell is supposed to pick the team and we're supposed to support her. So I agree with Dr. Mitchell's choice. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I support her. And if this is the right candidate, then I agree with it, so.
So
motion to table.
call the vote for a motion to table.
Broderick,
Yes.
Mahalik,
No.
Morales,
Yes.
O'Connell,
No.
Washington,
No.
Wilkinson,
No.
and Wonderlich.
No.
Correct. The motion to table does not pass, so Mr. Chairman, 2.1.2 is put to the board. Is there a motion to approve 2.1.2?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Joan, call the roll, please.
And this is a motion to approve.
Approved.
Okay. Dan O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Broderick,
No.
Mahalik,
Yes.
Morales.
I'm going to abstain. I'm sure he's a fine candidate, but I would like to see the other person's credentials.
And Wonderlich.
Yes. And I don't think there's any reason why you can't, even though it's after the fact, still see the other person's credentials. Or
Thank you.
is there, Mr. Buck?
No.
Okay. All right, moving on to item 4.7.
Discussion.
Well, we have to have a motion in a second.
I'd like to make a motion for discussion for 4.7.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion, okay.
Just to be clarified, Mr. Chairman, The motion needs to be to approve it, then there's a second, then there's discussion.
Motion to approve item 4.7.
Is that your motion, trustee Morales?
No, to approve it before we have a discussion?
Under Robert's Rules of Order, to have a
have to approve
discussion
it
on
and
the
second.
item, you have to make a motion to approve it. Then somebody seconds it, then there's discussion.
We're not voting on it now, we'll just
Okay.
make a motion.
Fine, then I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Correct.
And I
Do
will
we have a
second.
second? We have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Now discussion.
I think I'm gonna, Jeff, you might need to help me out with this one. So this is for the tax abatement. And I think according to the notes, our JJC share of these taxes is a little over $32,000. This is for the tax abatement request for Procter & Gamble, the Project Heartland in Morris.
Upon completion of the project, the estimated taxes would be, look at my sheet here.
Did you formally provide us with the list of those that approved? Because I don't see that on this one.
It's in the board packet.
Yeah,
We're at, I'm looking.
should be kind of the first page.
For administrative services.
Oh, never mind, I see it, never mind, sorry.
Upon completion and at the end of the abatement, or if there was no abatement, our estimated share of our taxes would be approximately $32,000. That answers your question.
So you're asking us to approve the tax abatement. So that means that they wouldn't have to pay taxes, is that correct? Help me can you unpack this process? for me?
50%, the abatement request that they follow under Grundy Economic Development Council, they have a scoring system they use based on jobs, the value of what improvements they're doing, and how close it is, location within the county. This project scored a 5-year, 50% tax abatement.
So for 5 years, they would not pay taxes?
They pay half.
Yeah.
Half, half of their tax.
Yes.
So Jeff, does this go into the new property in the taxpayer equation? Would this fall underneath there with being abated like this?
It would be considered new property to the college, yes.
Okay, so that's in your tax equation. Can you restate that tax equation you showed earlier? Because that's new property is key in order to gain more revenue, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So we would, if it's 50%, so it would be like $16,000 then, right?
On an annual basis for approximately 5 years, yes.
And looks like it's another warehouse?
It's a yes, it's a distribution. It sounds like it's a very high-tech distribution facility. Because they have, from what it was said, there was a lot of equipment going in this building. And Grundy County taxes, most equipment like that is taxed as real property.
Okay, so according to the information given, this is supposed to create about a little over 200 jobs. Is this union? Probably not.
I don't know the question of that. I know they said the construction would definitely be union out there. At the end, I know from what Nancy Ammer had indicated, as a general rule, from what she was seeing in other jobs in the county, these were well-paying positions, and they were paying kind of above average for the county on a lot of this. Because with this being a lot more technology in that building, it does require a more skilled individual for a lot of it.
Jeff, question, is this property right now vacant?
It's farmland.
So what do you think we'd be getting for the taxes on farmland? Roughly.
I think it's in here. I think it's,
128.
I guess say a little over $100, 128.
100, so we're.
It's right across from the airport.
Yeah, so we're gonna give up $16,000 a year for 5 years to get 32. And right now, we get like a couple $1,000 maybe a year.
I did drop off a zero.
Okay, couple $100 a year.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a win-win situation for everybody. We're going to win a little bit more in 5 years, but as it is right now, we are still going to make out buku.
And everybody in the other
Everybody
taxing
else.
bodies have approved this except for the township and the fire protection district.
And this is not unlike any other tax abatements we have given out in the past 44 years that I know of.
If they went under the Grundy Economic Development rules, their assessment, their scorecards, I mean, they haven't changed anything on that in, the 18 years I've seen it, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, and although JJC might benefit on this as an institution, I'm also looking at the bigger global picture that I think we all should look at is it's going to have 148 jobs making between $37,000 and $50,000. I want to make sure that when we're approving companies we want business here, don't get me wrong, in our 525 district. But those jobs, I would hope that they would be, good paying jobs. This looks like another warehousing to me. And we're already having a lot of issues with the warehouses, with the low paying jobs, with the trucking companies, so on and so forth. I just don't want to add any more of that,
Understood.
So that's why I was asking.
One of the emphasis they said on this one is these are all, the only jobs counted in here are the direct hire of the company. It's not through a placement third-party agency. There will be some additional temporary jobs related to that, but Grundy Economic Development Council did not count any of those jobs in this scoring.
Okay, so there may be some temp jobs down the line, but these are not,
Those are not in the numbers. That would be above and beyond, but they do not use them in their scoring. Or they did not use them in the scoring on this one.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Any other discussion on item 4.7? If not, Joan, call the roll, please.
Morales?
No.
Pardon me. O'Connell?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Wilkinson?
Yes.
Broderick?
Aye.
Mahalik?
Yes.
And Wonderlich.
Yes. Moving on, item 5, student development, no action reported. Item 6, new old business, any board comments? If not, go ahead.
I'm just going to say this. I'm sorry, I'm taking a personal position on this one. I'm really concerned that sometimes we as board members need to step in and if we're responsible for voting for things, we need to know what we're voting for. And my no vote was because I do not know and did not know all of the characteristics. All I keep hearing, and I'm sorry, Dr. Mitchell, but all I keep hearing is the pros and cons for both of the gentlemen that were out there as the two last candidates. The one that was chosen lives in Indiana, isn't certified yet to be in Illinois yet. And there are things that cause me concern that I appreciate those that reached out and made comments to me, because as a trustee, we need to know things. We need to be made aware of things. And it's nothing to detriment you at all. It's just that I think that we should have entitlement of knowing and being able to vote on knowing on something that we see of both, instead of just voting on one. And that's where my position stands, that I'm sorry that I did a no vote, but it's because of, if you have people that are, and this was a high profile issue. And ever since the day that I walked on this campus, the former police chief was constantly under gun, under fire. I went through the last 6 years of watching this position being a high profile position throughout the whole community. And I feel that we all should have had entitlement, since this was such a high button issue. Because when I came on board, it was a 3-3 board. I was the deciding factor on what would happen with this man. You were his boss, but yet you didn't know things that were going on. I had to go and find things out because I didn't know the background, and I researched it, and I had police chiefs reaching out to me. And that alarmed me, that we as trustees are put into that position of having to really know what's going on. I don't like to micromanage. That's not my goal. But my goal is I want to have somebody that we're not going to have problems with. For 6 years, I had nothing but ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs of the press, everybody coming after us. I don't want to have that. And if this is the man you choose and all the other questions of where he lives in Indiana, and is he going to commute? Is he going to move here? Is he going to get licensed in Illinois? I don't care if he's got the FBI training. I don't care if he's got that type of training. I want somebody that's familiar with campuses as the other candidate was, because he came from Lewis University. He was familiar with the municipalities around here. And that's where I sit. I look at things that bring my attention to things. And I don't want to have somebody ask me, why did you vote for him? I want to know why I voted for him. And I don't want a rubber stamp. Thank you.
My comment with respect to this issue too, is that as trustees, we are only told certain information at this board meeting. And there's a lot of rules we have to follow. And many times we have people in the community, our constituents that vote for us, that will reach out and share their concerns because they work here or because they go to school here or their children go to school here. And these are constituents that we approach and we ask them to trust in us and vote for us. So as trustees, we cannot sit here and rubber stamp everything just because it's presented by the leadership. Our job is to question things, to ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. You're a new student trustee. I hope you don't sit here and rubber stamp everything and you inform yourself and that you understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, because we are going to be held accountable as trustees. I want to be held accountable. But when we're only getting one side of the story and then we hear something completely different out from the people that work here on a day-to-day, we have to question these things. And I'm sure this is a fine young man, but with our previous leaders, we've hired vice presidents from other places, and they've come from a long distance, and they come here for 1 or 2 years, get some experience, and then jump on to the next level. We are offering someone a job for the next 30 years to retire from here. I don't want to have to hire another vice president that just came, got some experience, and left. I want to make sure they're going to be here for the long haul. And if they're leaving, then there's a culture problem here that we need to address, because we lost most of our leadership team this year, and that really concerns me right now. So that's why I wanted to at least see who was the other person. I didn't even know that person was from Lewis, but I want to know, like Trustee Broderick said, it's not about micromanaging. It's about becoming informed and asking questions. And you can't trust blindly. Our job is to ask questions, and that's all we're doing here. Just like we got an email this weekend or a couple days ago about an anonymous concern about the previous vice president of academic affairs. Now we're having to hash this out after it's been done, because this board trusted blindly and approved it. Now there's questions coming up about it. I want to avoid that.
Well,
So that's all.
We really don't, this board does not take credence in anonymous letters. Anybody could write it. My daughter could write an anonymous letter.
Well, this was serious.
If they don't want to say who they are and what they're doing.
Right. I understand, but this could possibly end up being a lawsuit and cost us money, then we need to take these things, look at what they're saying and see if they're valid or not. That's all.
That's what we have a fine college attorney for.
That we pay a lot of money to.
And he's worth it.
All right, I have one more thing to bring up too. Because of all the COVID situation going on, I think we need to re-examine our protocols for that. Pardon me?
Wearing a mask might be a good thing.
I'm sitting here 6 feet away from you, so I understand, but I can't talk if I don't.
Everyone else is talking.
Thank you for correcting me.
What did you want to say about the process?
I think we need to re-examine the protocols, because even though we may have the monitors out there, we keep getting new cases. In all of the stuff that I heard on the national convention and on the ICCTA, our community colleges are decreasing. We seem to be going this way instead of this way. I think we need to re-examine the protocols. I know that we are getting more situations. I know that when I go to physical therapy, I have to sign a form that says if I've come in contact with anyone, I have to have my temperature taken as we're doing here. But if I've come in contact with anyone that's had it, I'm restricted for a couple of days. My daughter's a critical care nurse who graduated from JJC. Her protocol in the ICU out in Virginia, since that's a higher case, is if they come in contact with someone, they have 3 days to remain off of work to see if they have any symptoms. I think we need to re-examine the protocols of what we're doing, because if we keep seeing one case after another, we got to do something to be diligent. And I think that would be the appropriate way to do it, to bring back and look at those protocols, to see what procedures we got in place and to see what we have to do. Because as I've said, this is a whole new learning experience for all of us. And all of the colleges are trying to figure out what's the best approach to handle COVID.
And you are 100% correct, Trustee Broderick.
Thank you.
But in the same note, JDC does not spread coronavirus. It comes in from people on the outside. And we cannot control what the people on the outside are doing. All we can do is when they get in here, we got to say, hey, and we are doing it. We've got hand sanitizers, we've got the mask, we've got everything for them. So I think our administration is doing the best thing that they can do at the time in something that we don't even know what the hell's going on because we've never been through it before.
But I think, Bob, that we need to look at that protocol, because if somebody's coming in contact with somebody from outside and they come in and they inform us that they've been with somebody, what is the procedure?
Absolutely.
Do we allow them to come back into the building and then they may be asymptomatic, they may not be symptomatic. They may develop it a couple days later, but then what have they done to infect others that are?
We've got the best nursing program in the state. And I think that the administration gets a hold of, Mary Beth and everybody else that works here and says, what's the best possible scenario we can do? And I think we're doing it.
I can speak to the PPE practices that we have in place. I'm very proud of what we have. We have an emergency response team that collectively meets if the need arises to that level. Our students are asked if they come into the door and they have any type of concerns, they receive a card. They are immediately asked to leave and they contact Dean Cindy Vasquez Barrios from students. There's also an online form if they have come in contact or are symptomatic, they go online, they fill out the form and Maxient, it gets sent to the student team. If it's an employee, they contact HR immediately and they're directed to stay home until they receive their test back, whether or not they're positive. So everything is tracked. The employees or students in that area, until we know for sure, they are notified that there is a potential case and to watch for their symptoms over the next so many days. And I don't have everything right in front of me. And then if the employee does come back and they are positive, then those employees are notified again. And then they are required to stay home and monitor their symptoms. We do the same for students. When the students file their form, Dean Cindy Vasquez Barrios, the work that this team has done at the institution is phenomenal. They get the calls, they call the students, they conduct the contact tracing, they ask where they've been, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's been in the hallway, in the cafeteria, who's been around, they contact the faculty members. Everyone is involved. We have, I think we're at 25 cases right now as of August 3rd when we opened our doors. And again, like Chairman Wunderlich said, we cannot control the environment that our students, that our employees are in. If they're going to a party or going somewhere, we cannot control that. But as soon as we are notified and we have any concerns, all employees are asked to stay home. They're notified. We have an extensive process. Kara Anderson, as our EHS manager, she continues to monitor any changes in the CDC guidelines, the IDPH, and OSHA guidelines. We follow all those. We are in compliance and follow the guidelines within ADA and HIPAA rules as far as communication for names. We have to be obviously very concerned about that and sharing that information unless it comes from that individual directly. So we have got a very extensive project. The cabinet members, Jim is a member of that, very extensive team. I think there's about a dozen of us on the team. We have facility services, we have campus police. Everyone is on that committee. We have added, within our labs, we have spray machines, they're electrostatic sprayers. After each lab class, we utilize that. And in fact, I'm actually very proud. I mean, it's unfortunate that we have these cases. We have no one gave us a guidebook for the pandemic. We continue to turn on the news and it changes every day. But what I can tell you is I am so proud of the work that our team does to ensure everyone's safety. Can we guarantee 100%? We can't control what happens when they go out the door. But when they come on our campus, we can do our best to control the environment, to contact individuals, and to stay abreast of everything that we have that's provided to us, not only from these organizations, but from mandates from the state level as well.
So if an employee comes to you, to HR, or their boss or whatever, and tells them they've been in contact with somebody that possibly has COVID, what is the parameters that you do with that person then?
It's situational. It's more situational. And I don't know if Judy Connolly is on this evening. Oh, Judy, are you there? Judy, can you help me with this? Only because you are our HR expert, so I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
As Dr. Mitchell mentioned, we're following the CDC and IDPH guidelines. So we would look at somebody who's asymptomatic that says that they have been in a close contact, which is defined generally as less than 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. We would advise them to quarantine for 14 days. For the other cases where somebody is experiencing symptoms or pending a test, we have many people that have just called and said, hey, I have 2 or more symptoms, I'm stuffy. It is cold and flu season, so it's often hard to distinguish, and we're very conservative and err on the side of caution. So we advise those people to stay home for 10 days or produce an alternate diagnosis or negative COVID test to be released to come back to work. Those are generally the 2 categories. So it's like 10 days or 14 days. And this is all in accordance with CDC and IDPH.
And Judy, do we pay them then for being off with the fact that they have it? Because this is part of what came up during our national convention talk about what we have to do. Because if we feel someone has it and they have no control over the situation, not where they put themselves into it, but they do come in contact, do we pay them for that time off?
For employees, like they've been notified at work that they were a close contact. If we send anybody home because they're not feeling well or they receive notification, we're just covering them for the day. Mm-hmm. And then in most cases, the employees, if they cannot work remote, most cases they're still working remotely or have the ability to work remotely. If they cannot, and we have the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, FFCRA, and if they qualify for one of the 5 reasons, which is usually that they are not feeling well and they're seeking a diagnosis or they've been advised to quarantine, then we would determine their eligibility for up to 2 weeks of paid sick time. That's even for our part-timers that don't have leave available. We average out their hours, whatever they would normally work. Mm-hmm. In a part-time, it could be a student worker. So we've seen quite a bit of that. I mean, there's been over 100 calls on the student side, over 100 calls to HR. And out of those calls, I know we're sitting at 10 COVID positive cases on the employee side, but we cannot attribute any of that as being contact with positive people within the college on the employee side. I'm not certain on the student side.
Okay, and being that we had the COVID test out here the 3 days last week, I came just to see what the COVID test was like, and I had the test done. Being that the COVID test takes 2 days, because I was told 2 to 3 days, I got it in a day and a half. So being that, and I was negative, just so the person over there that questioned me about this. Being that it takes possibly 2 to 3 days, if you tell them to go get tested, do they get paid then during that period of time that they have to go for the testing because they think they have? Because what's the ruling? Because I'm hearing that you shouldn't get tested until 48 hours after you've come in contact with that person, and then wait and get tested, because that's what I'm hearing as we're going through all this craziness of COVID.
The college, again, in accordance with the guidelines, we strongly advise medical evaluation and testing, but we do not require it. Mm. So, but generally, if someone is ill or has been advised to quarantine, those are 2 of the reasons that would qualify them for the Families First Coronavirus Act, so that's where their pay would come from. They just need to provide us with a receipt that they went through the testing center or that they've consulted with their doctor. It's pretty simple. It's not overly burdensome. That's the way the law was set up. Now, we don't know if that benefit will be available after 12/31/20. It was set to expire. I have not heard that it is renewing, as a federal benefit for paid leave.
Right. And Trustee Broderick, a couple of things that I want to share as well is there's been talk at the state level with the presidents that, there's, talk about having tests done at every higher education institution. The challenge comes in is the cost. And typically what we have is our unfunded federal, mandates or unfunded state mandates. So we continue to watch for that. And on the second part, just so you know, and Jeff, I do appreciate that. Our employees are held to disciplinary standards. If they're not wearing their masks, we go through the disciplinary process because we're that serious about protecting our employees. And then if you do recall, it was probably about a month ago when I came back to the board that I said I even reduced the amount of employees that are on campus to really minimize that exposure, that we have rotational basis when they're in the office. The facility services team, they are rock stars. They are in there every night. We have people that come throughout the day and they're wiping down handles and they're spraying the bathrooms. I mean, we have gone above and beyond. And what I continue, and I'm proud because when I talk to other presidents, they're impressed by the work that we're doing here as well. So, is there always something different that you can? Absolutely. But, the mandates, the directives change on a day-to-day basis. But my priority continues to be the safety of our employees and our students.
No, and I understand that. But I think as we go through this whole thing, we have gone through a lot of ups and downs. And then we keep, when we see the emails come through of somebody else that's got COVID, and we know it's all HEPA related, that you can't relate who it is. But when you hear of people and you're concerned about it, and it seems like that is becoming a concern, that we should be included and know what the procedures are. Right. Because I don't know. I mean, I honestly, I see that somebody goes to HR. I don't know if they get paid or they don't get paid. I don't know what the quarantine rule is. I wanted to see what the COVID testing was. I came that afternoon because everybody's scared the what out of us about going up the nose and it's going to hurt and all this stuff. And the nurse, the student nurse that was there with her instructor, they told me what it was. And it was extremely an easy test.
Yeah, it depends on who does it. I'll tell you, I had one nasty one, but I've had a couple of them.
But the thing was, I came here because everybody tells you, when you want to go see elderly people, you need to have a COVID test. Okay. So if you try to get into CVS, there's a 2-week waiting period if you're going to certain ones in certain areas. Well, when you see the COVID testing here, I thought, okay, I'll see how the line is. There was a couple cars. That was it. So I thought, do we need an appointment? No, no appointment needed. I wanted to see what it felt like, what it was like, because I'm sure some of us are going to go through it. I mean, when I have my annual, I want to get blood tested to see if I have antibodies, because we don't know. As you said, the flu's coming up. Every pharmacist in Walgreens is highly recommending that everybody get the flu shot now, because the flu and the COVID have similar relationships of things that they can come down with. So everybody is getting flu shots for free if you want to call it, because the insurance companies are now doing flu shots for free. So I want to make sure that we understand what the provisions are. That's why I said, what are the protocols? I don't see any protocols. I don't see any policies or procedures. I just see what we are doing, as we go, as we progress through this.
I've been doing my best to copy you on all of my emails regarding that. And I do encourage you to look at our website. Kelly and her team have done a phenomenal job on the website. But as always, and I continue to share with the board, call me, ask me questions, stop by. I am more than happy to meet with you, to describe what we're doing. Again, and a part of, it's like my little president summary will get cut short tonight. But, when we had Dr. Gupta here earlier in the season, our staff were so impressed with the fact that he took time from Silver Cross Hospital to meet with us. We have him coming back later on this month to talk to the employees about the difference between flu and COVID and what to expect. We continue to do this on a daily basis, that what is changing. We have our team, what is changing, sending updates. We send chats through Teams. It's a continual basis. I mean, it's continuing, and we can, and I will continue to copy you on the emails that I send to staff when it's regarding COVID. I continue to send you updates on if we have a positive employee and student. Obviously, we're very very restrictive on the information, but at least you have that information. But I am always, my door, and I tell that to the employees and our students, my door is always open. I'm always willing to talk. I'm always here to provide you with information. But at the same time, this has been one heck of a year.
Well, I think if you do recall, because I know you were on the ACCT convention too, there was COVID related, board related, and I think a lot of people attended a lot of those COVID meetings because we wanted to hear what was universally going around, what people were dealing with.
Absolutely.
And there was a lot of highlighted information that came out of those things. And I think that's what sparks the concerns, because when you listen to people in 50 states and what they're all going through, and the states that are really in trouble, you want to know what's going on. And that's why I brought it up. So, you know, that's the position I'm taking.
I would suggest, Trustee Broderick, your comments are very well taken.
Thank you.
Is anybody else who had comments about what we're doing here? And Dr. Mitchell, seeing as how you already have all the stuff that you did, when you're not doing anything, just put together a little sheet and send it to all the trustees.
Sure.
Saying, this is what we did, this is what our policies are, this is how we're doing it, everything you said tonight, put it on paper, send it out to all the trustees.
Okay, I'll send you all attachments. I'll send you links. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on, item 7, new business, first reading of board policies, 7.1 through 7.4 in our packets. Second, item 8.7, item 8, second reading board policies, 8.1 through 8.5 are in our policies. Approval of a third reading, which was on a consent agenda, item 8, 6, 7, and 8. Moving on, reports from the foundation. Either Nancy or Christy, are they with us tonight?
Hi.
Yeah, Christy is here. Trustee Garcia again emailed earlier. She wasn't able to make it this evening.
Okay, Christy, you got anything to share with us?
Sure, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Just a few quick things. As of today, our student emergency fund sits at 123,000. So we still have plenty of funds to help any students in need with computers, hotspots, tuition books, fees, food, whatever they need. So that account is going strong. One of the reasons is, as you know, as we deplete each paycheck, there's so many employees that give through payroll deduction, the money gets put back in. And so we have the funds to still help our students. The scholarships for spring post tomorrow, midnight tonight. And of course, we don't have as many for spring that we do for our fall semester, but we've been working hard to bring some additional ones in. Everything that was not awarded for one reason or the other in the fall semester is posted now for spring. So I think there's over 55 scholarships available right now to our students. We also have money left over from the Vera Smith money for the completion. And that is for students in their final semester if they're running into financial hardship, just to be able to get them to the point of a certificate or degree. So the deans and most faculty know about that initiative, so people will continue to come to me with that. Again, we raised, since March, we've raised about 33,000 just for student emergency. Right now, what we're working on is our annual meeting is coming up for the foundation in November. We currently have 7 people that have been brought to the nomination committee to be new foundation board members. We're hoping to bring on 7 or 8 new foundation board members, and they will start in January. I can share those names once they've been approved at the meeting. Jen Howard is ending her 2nd year with the foundation, and I talked to her today and she had a wonderful experience. She'll stay on as our immediate past president, but right now slated to be the next president of the foundation is Brett Gould. I'm sure some of you know him, and he's been on the board for quite a while. He's retired as the assistant superintendent of Lockport Schools, and Brett is going to be a great president for the foundation. So let's see, I think that unless you have any questions, that concludes my report.
Anybody? Thanks, Christie.
You're welcome.
ICCTA Rep, Ms. Broderick.
Thank you. The ICCTA met on September 11th and 12th, and I hope you had all had gotten, I think Joan sent out the 800, the connection number, so all you could have met. If I missed seeing anybody, I didn't see anybody on there, but I just thought I'd make sure that you guys all know that it will be going out when we have our meeting on the 13th and the 14th. So if you wish to join, you can also join then. But this is the items that were discussed and gone through that for that meeting weekend. Of course, we had the reflection of Greg Chadwick, who was the president of the ICCTA at the time. He passed away on September 4th due to cardiac arrest. We elevated John Looney to the president. He was VP. He was elevated to the president's position because of that. We discussed state and federal legislation, including the Illinois General Assembly's fall 2020 veto session, the state's fiscal year 2021 budget, construction bidding procedures, and the proposed federal H-Heroes stimulus package. As I said, November 14th will be our next meeting, and we will discuss 2021 legislative goals and which will be affected by after the November 3rd election. So we will be watching who's elected then. We are working on diversity, equity, and inclusion, known as DEI, goals for ICCTA in light of the ACCT new DEI implementation guide. We discussed the feedback on petitions, procedures, and ethics, and how will the 2021 trustee election work in an epidemic. We discussed fall enrollment, class size, hands-on classes, social distancing requirements. October 5th and 8th will be the Leadership Congress held by the ACCT virtually. The roundtable also was discussing the DEI, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We discussed the National Legislative Summit that is normally held in February. We don't know if it's going to be held or not. The concerns were with the pandemic and everything that we might not be seeing it. So that is something, and I think Dr. Mitchell, the presidents were also talking about it too, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And then they had the recognition awards for education. They were going to do it in person, but due to COVID, they couldn't. And just so you all know, I did get a letter because I don't know if you saw on the website that I did get the first trustee education award through the participation of 15 or more seminars that have been offered by the Trustees Association. And their letter says, due to COVID, social distancing restrictions, they were prevented, but they did give me an award of the education thing with the citing on the back of it, which I thought was very nice of them to do. And as I said, November 13th and 14th will be the next ICCTA meeting, and it's probably going to be virtual. Those numbers will be provided, and Joan, I will give that number to you so you can get it once we get it connected. Then on September 29th, since I'm the ACCT coordinator for the state of Illinois, I'm going to give you what happened there so that you have a little bit of an idea. This was right before the convention, and I was reappointed as the Illinois ACCT coordinator. We are the link between the ACCT and the member boards from our state, so that's why they have coordinators from each state. We had 5 people, because we're in the central region, we had 5 boards, 5 states representative, 2 states absent, and 2 vacancies that they're trying to fill. They had us split up, and we did a breakout session for each of our regions. Topics discussed were the value and the cost of having the National Legislative Summit. Should it be in person or should it not be in person? Should it be, even though we have COVID, should it still be something we do virtually? Discussion was on enrollment. We heard percentages of where enrollments were going because of COVID. We had concerns of what they're doing for RIFs with employees. We talked about virtual classes, attending in-person classes, and the need for in-person classes, which were basically nursing and things of that nature in the medical field, which we discussed what JJC was doing. The big thing that was and Christy, you're on here, I'm going to share this with you. The big thing was the foundations and what the foundations are doing to contribute. You were cited for the generosity of the technology, the hotspots, the food pantries, the foundation scholarships, and the money backups to do whatever we need to help with keeping these kids in and enrolled, or these students enrolled. And I got to say, across the board in all the states, when we got back together to do our feedback with all of the other regions. The foundation was getting kudos beyond, because you guys are a great asset to the colleges, and you've been a great asset to keeping things stable, with helping the kids with technology, keeping them connected to the colleges and to their classes. And everything that has been provided has been positively received and positively taken, and we appreciate that. So that was from the regional meeting. I'm just going to mention one thing from the ACCT leadership that took place prior to the the beginning of the meeting on October 5th through 7th. The voting took place on September 29th and 30th. We were able to get Amanda Howland from Lake County onto our board, which gives us strength in the central region, so that the central region has things that we can bring and deal with. And we are excited about that. And next month, I will talk about what was all of the classes that we're involved with the ACCT. And I don't know any of you, I don't know which ones of you took, but I'm going through all of the list, and the 4 days were filled. I think I had anywhere from 4 to 6 classes each day. We had shared screens that they let us see, things that helped us out with diversity and inclusion, COVID, board policies, good board. And the one thing that I'm going to bring back, and Dr. Mitchell might be mentioning this, is board retreats and the necessity for having board retreats. Because board retreats, whether you're an existing board or you have new members come on, each time you have a new board member come on, it's a new board. You need a retreat. And they identified things, and we really need, and I'm going to suggest this, we need to plan one for December, because we need to go over and see what we've done for our goals and how our president has done, because I think we're remiss in not giving enough to her in her evaluations to know if she's got goals and what they are, and if she's meeting them or not. And it should not be something that we're doing one day at a time. It's got to be progressive through these retreats. And we are able to discuss these through our retreats and give her feedback and give her entitlement to know what we expect from her, not just to say at each meeting we're not happy. We have to form a good relationship with our board president, with our school president, in order for us to work as trustees with her. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is item 9.3, student trust report. Ian, give us about a 25-minute report.
Do you want me to go up to the podium? I have the PowerPoint.
If you have something, I don't know if you have it.
Yeah, I have. I prepared a PowerPoint.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, he's ready.
Look at this guy.
Would you like to go to the, oh,
Okay.
yeah, look at that. They're going to bring you the remote, so you're fine.
It doesn't matter. All right, thank you. Okay, so for my student trustee report, at the bottom, I just wanted to put kind of a quote that I like to live by, be the voice, or be the change, be the voice, be you. It's something that I kind of want to bring forth to the students, because of course, like in a time of a lot of change, it's important that, I mean, our voices are heard. It's important that we are being the change within our community. It's important that we are being the change within our school, and then making sure that we kind of speak up against against others, and speak up for ourselves, and speak up for like the little people, and then not be afraid to be who you are, who you are meant to be. And that's just something that I like to live by. And then kind of what's been happening since the August, the Blazer newspaper. I don't know if you guys get this. If you guys want to get it, I can send it to you. I can forward it to you if you guys want to read it. I believe they want to send out like 2 or 3 a semester. It's a really good read. I mean, they're just kind of talking about the COVID guidelines that the college has put forth, and then just highlighting some things that are going on within clubs, or anything that's going on within different things in the community and at JJC. And then there's also just a bunch of transfer events that are going on for business or just other majors. And then in August, at the beginning of August, when school started there wasn't a lot too much going on because of course we were starting. There was a lot of stuff for first year students. And then at the end of September, since we weren't able to kind of have our main street where we line up all the clubs that are here at JJC on the main drag, our awesome OSA staff put on a main street online via Teams. So then that was conducted the whole week, the 31st through the 4th, where we got videos of different clubs and they posted throughout different social medias. And then we did kind of a panel where just anybody could join and be like, hey, I'm from this club representing so-and-so. What are you interested in, or what does your club bring to the table? How do I get involved and stuff like that? And then during the CCC meeting that same week, they chartered around 25 clubs. And then since then, they chartered about 3 or 4 more. I don't remember the exact number for that. And then still in September, so since we're not able to do a lot of things in person, the OSA staff has done a lot to just gear towards each week. So one week we had the Articulate, Advocate, and Allyship, where it just spoke a lot about how to become an ally, what's it mean to be an ally, and just pretty much kind of standing up and making sure, educating you on what it means to be an ally. And I know we had Tony Marotta. He came to our student government meeting and he spoke how to become an ally and stuff like that. And then the next week was the Hispanic Heritage Week, where the Latinos Unidos, which is a club, they kind of put on and helped the OSA staff do a loteria, which is similar to bingo. And then Carlos Andres Gomez is a speaker. They also, from the Culinary Arts Department, I don't remember his name, they kind of put up a video to teach you how to do tamales, which I'm actually kind of interested in doing because I've never had them. And then kind of tying everything off at the end of the September month was the ICC SAA Student Leadership Conference, where I believe we sent around 9 to 13 students to attend that, which the first day was just a public speaker. He did a really great job, high energy to keep people involved and just in tune with what he was talking about. And then the second day, I was unable to attend, but from what I hear from my peers, it was another great day. It's up on Google Drive, so I will be watching that later. And then I put down there the ICCB and the ACCT because I met with them, and on the ICCB SAC meeting standpoint, we kind of just talked about different clubs and everything going on and what's like protocols our college is doing. And I was actually elected to be the chairman of that committee. And like Dr. Mitchell was saying, everything or a lot of the protocols that we're going through with different colleges is very similar. We're going through a lot of things very similar to other colleges within the state. And on a club standpoint, we're having a lot of similar kind of issues and challenges that we're having to overcome with just getting people there and getting people involved. And then with the ACCT student trustee meeting, we just met and we kind of just talked about everything that went on at the Congress meetings and just things that we can implement for the future of our colleges. And then I wanted to put in student comments. On the left side is kind of just some of the negative feedback, because since we're on an online format, it's a lot harder for us to talk one-on-one with our professors because a lot of people are just feeling disconnected from them. I know from my personal standpoint, I have felt disconnected from one of my professors, and I know there's a lot of people that are feeling disconnected. But with Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Amy Gray kind of really being transparent about the situation and really listening. And I commend you on that. And I'm really glad that you're doing these, like the coffee with the president. I believe there's one next two weeks from now, or 2 weeks from Monday.
Next week.
Next week?
I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
next week, yeah.
So I'm really glad that she's doing that and that it shows that you guys actually care, and it shows that they actually care about our well-being and what we think and what's going on within the college. And then how you guys are using the emergency funds to purchase laptops or like the hotspots and stuff like that, using those funds to help the people that are kind of less fortunate, the people that are in those kind of that state of what the heck is going on, and the people that are wanting to pursue this higher education, but don't have that because of just their living situation or whatever that is. And then this week for the OSA staff, they're doing the Rock the Vote week, since the election year is just a huge thing going on. And I'll have more about that for the next meeting. But is there any questions that you guys have?
No, but I want to congratulate you on such a very well presented report. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, B and G. Mr.
Well,
Mr. Dan.
I had some technical difficulties, so I wasn't able to get on. This is my second laptop of the night. So I'm going to refer to Dr. Mitchell. I asked to recap what was done at the B&G meeting, please.
Yes, so today we talked about, and we summarized the project bids. There were none that came to the board tonight, but upcoming bids are auto shop and lab flooring replacement, auto shop and lab replacement, natural sciences area, carpet in the U building, and the chiller piping insulation. Some of the facility services projects, their repair for the southeast entrance canopy at Romeoville. The install is complete and we're going through punch list. J, B, and K building roof replacements all have been complete and we're waiting on final installs and for some of the fabricating coping. Auto shop and natural sciences bid documents are with purchasing. The City Center campus respiratory therapy, campus police station bridge connecting, City Center campus police and JT bridge are still in the programming stage. Respiratory therapy program committee has identified the appropriate floor plan for the space, is now moving into design development. And then Jeff Heath provided an update on Workday, and we continue to configure and prototype through October 19th. Unit testing has been extended, and the board will hear more about that at the October retreat. And end-to-end testing will start in November, and student recruiting and admissions phase activities have begun. And that concludes Trustee Mahalik and Trustee O'Connell's report.
Thanks, guys. Moving on, President's report, Dr. Mitchell.
Okay, mine will be brief. Tonight, after speaking with Trustee Broderick, we'll provide an extensive report from ACCT in November. So just some of the highlights again that I just want to reemphasize the fact that we are preparing for fall and flu season, in addition to the potential impact on COVID. So we have again invited Dr. Gupta back to the campus, and he will return to an open forum to provide updates to our employees. Tonight, you also received a written fall enrollment report from Dean Bob Morris in your packet. In light of the pandemic and the unique situation we find ourselves in this year, we're providing the data to you in advance, allowing you for an opportunity to review. And then Dean Morris will provide a business update in November for you. So it'll give you that opportunity just to assess that information. You will be receiving additional information. We will have a board retreat in October. This is normally scheduled, but it'll be a little shorter than last year. And then in anticipation for potentially a December retreat, we can talk more about that. But again, I just truthfully want to thank from the bottom of my heart, all of our employees, our faculty, our staff, our students. Ian, you and I have probably talked quite a bit, even though virtual. Everyone is supporting each other. These are difficult times. We're pulling together. The hours that the faculty are putting in, the staff. I look at people, I know they're tired. I go home at the end of the night, and believe it or not, when I take my makeup off, which it hasn't worn off from my face mask, under my eyes are dark. And this is what I see in our employees. And I want them to know that I care about them and the decisions we make is about their health and well-being, and that will continue under my leadership. So again, thank you to all. Thank you for sticking with us. And we will continue to change and we will continue to succeed in Joliet, and we will be JJC strong. And with that, a reminder, virtual State of the College, Tuesday, October 27th at 8 a.m. And finally, happy birthday to Trustee Broderick and Trustee Nancy Garcia again. Thank you.
Can I just add one thing that on your report, Dr. Mitchell, that you mentioned?
Sure.
You said December, the retreat.
Well, you mentioned potentially having another one, so.
And the thing was, they wanted to be, from all the community colleges that talked about it, it should be a full day and a half. And I think Chairman Wunderlich confirmed when I shared that with him too, that this had been done in the past. We need to look at it because rushing isn't giving us the adequate time to discuss and talk about everything that we need to.
Right.
And it needs to be off campus so that we are not tied to this building as they have done in the past. And I think between Robert, our chairman, Mr. Wunderlich, and Joan and you, I think we need to come up with a date that works for us to do it so that we progressively move into that direction before the next election.
Right. No, I like that. And the October retreat will be high level, and we can just, talk about some of that and then talk about that future planning for a more extensive December retreat. I agree.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Mitchell, if I can, I want to also thank all of our staff, all of our students and the staff here at JJC. I know this has been very difficult. My sister is an educator in the Joliet schools, and I have a lot of former students that I counsel that are students, and they are completely burning out right now. So I know you guys are doing a lot, and thank you for that. Thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
All right. Next item is Chairman's report. One thing, Judy, if you wear your mask all day, what do you need makeup for?
I know. Well, I start out looking beautiful when I leave, and then by the end of the day, forget it. It's all on my mask and.
And then again. All right.
So.
All right. Again, happy birthday to Nancy and Maureen. I'd like to thank all the administrators and everybody, and thanks for all the comments tonight that everybody had. I'd like to say kudos out to Rosa Salazar and Susan Bay Bartel.
Sounds correct. Okay. I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
They were on
on
WJOL on Monday, and they just did an excellent job. Excellent job. The other thing I'd like to, mention is that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we should all be aware of that. And it's also Domestic Violence Month.
And it's also Pregnancy Month too, for any woman that's having a hard time with getting pregnant. October is the month for PCOS.
Thank you, Trustee Broderick. I didn't know that. And other than that, that concludes my report. We do need a motion to go into closed session for item 2C5, 2C11, and 2C1. It will be a short executive session. When we come back, there will be no business taken, so you don't have to stick around if you don't want to. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Joan, call the roll, please.
Broderick,
Aye.
Mahalik, Morales. Yes. O'Connell,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
and Wunderlich.
Yes.